They're tightening. I can't breathe.
These are 15 strange but completely verified facts about Fantastic Voyage, the 1966 science fiction film that shrunk people down to microscopic size and sent them on a journey through the human body. This movie pioneered visual effects that had never been attempted before, confused an entire generation about who actually wrote the story, and featured behind-the-scenes chaos involving everything from stolen props to uncomfortable filming conditions. Make sure you subscribe and hit the hype button so more people can enjoy these deep dives into classic cinema. Number 1. The dry swimming pool. Nobody in Fantastic Voyage ever touched water, which might shatter your childhood memories. Every scene that looks like the actors are floating and swimming through blood vessels was filmed on completely dry sound stages, and the cast members were suspended from wires and moved slowly through the air while fans and lighting effects created the illusion they were submerged in fluid. It was all clever camera work and wire rigging, not a drop of water in sight. Number 2. The slow-motion trick. The filmmakers shot the body interior sequences at 1.5 times normal speed to make the floating effect even more convincing. Cameras were running at 50% higher frame rate than usual, which when played back at normal speed gave the actors a strange dreamlike buoyancy that perfectly mimicked the sensation of moving through liquid. In 1966, this kind of creative problem-solving was groundbreaking, even if it seems obvious in hindsight. Number 3. The crow that became a thief. Production challenges ranged from technical to absolutely bizarre, and here's the best example. The film used multiple 3-inch models of the Proteus submarine for various shots, and someone left one of these miniature submarines near an open window on the soundstage. A crow spotted it, apparently found it fascinating, flew in, grabbed the model, and flew away. Somewhere out there, possibly in a nest or at the bottom of a California ravine, sits a piece of Hollywood history that was literally stolen by a bird and never recovered. Number 4. 1 hour inside. The movie's structure contains a fascinating mathematical precision that most viewers never consciously notice. Once the crew is miniaturized and injected into the patient's bloodstream, the portion of the movie that takes place inside the human body runs almost exactly 60 minutes, which is precisely 1 hour of inner space adventure out of the film's 100-minute runtime. This careful timing mirrors the 1-hour deadline the crew faces in the story itself, creating a real-time tension that audiences could feel. Number 5. The Asimov confusion. For decades, people believed the movie was based on an Isaac Asimov novel, which might be the most persistent piece of misinformation about Fantastic Voyage. The truth is exactly backwards, because Asimov was hired to adapt the screenplay into a novel as a tie-in product, but his book was published before the movie was released. Generations of moviegoers walked into theaters thinking they were watching an adaptation of Asimov's work, when actually Asimov had adapted someone else's screenplay, and this confusion lasted for years. Number 6. The money problem. Despite becoming a beloved classic and winning Academy Awards, Fantastic Voyage initially lost money at the box office. 20th Century Fox needed the film to earn $9.4 million in rentals just to break even, but it only made $8.88 million on its initial theatrical release. The movie only became profitable later through television broadcasts and home video sales, which is a reminder that sometimes the most influential films aren't immediately recognized by audiences. Number 7. The Disney connection. Harper Goff designed the iconic Proteus submarine, and if that name sounds familiar, it should. Goff was the artist who designed the Nautilus for Disney's 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, which means Fox essentially hired the man who'd created one of cinema's most memorable fictional submarines to design another one. There's a visual lineage connecting these two vessels, both with that same sense of retro-futuristic elegance and that feeling of vessels that are simultaneously advanced and grounded in mechanical reality. Number 8. Anatomy class at the movie. Medical schools actually took Fantastic Voyage seriously as an educational tool, and into the 1980s, professors were screening scenes from the film to teach students about blood flow, immune responses, and organ structures. A Hollywood entertainment product became legitimate teaching material in medical education for nearly 2 decades, which happened because the film's visualizations of bodily systems were considered accurate and clear enough to help future doctors understand human anatomy. Number 9. The uncomfortable rescue scene. In one of the film's most memorable sequences, Raquel Welch's character is attacked by antibodies that cling to her wetsuit, and director Richard Fleischer had to stop filming because the male actors who were supposed to be carefully removing the attacking antibodies got too enthusiastic. Fleischer later said they grabbed what they pleased, and the scene started looking less like a medical emergency and more like what he called a Las Vegas showgirl routine, which is a reminder that even on professional film sets, maintaining appropriate conduct required constant vigilance from directors. Number 10. The massive sets. Building the inside of a human body presented challenges that couldn't be solved with miniatures alone, And since CGI didn't exist in 1966, Fox constructed enormous, abstract sets representing arteries, the heart, lungs, and the brain. Some of these sets were over 40 feet long, which was necessary to create those sweeping psychedelic anatomical environments that made audiences feel genuinely transported into inner space. These weren't small studio corners dressed up with clever angles but massive physical constructions that actors could move through naturally. Number 11. The critical split. Contemporary critics were divided on Fantastic Voyage in fascinating ways that reflected a broader question about the film itself. Life magazine's Richard Schickel dismissed the premise as a real whopper, suggesting the whole concept was too ridiculous to take seriously, while Variety praised it as an enlightening excursion through inner space and treated it as serious science fiction with educational value. Was this campy B-movie nonsense or genuinely visionary filmmaking? Both perspectives had merit, and both audiences showed up. Number 12. The Pioneering Oscar. The Academy Awards recognized that Fantastic Voyage had accomplished something genuinely new when the film won Oscars for Best Special Effects and Best Art Direction and Color, specifically for techniques that had never existed before 1966. These weren't awards for doing familiar things well, but recognition that the visual effects team had invented new methods that expanded what cinema could show, and those techniques are still studied in film schools today as examples of practical effects problem solving. What made these awards particularly meaningful was the nature of what the team had achieved without any of the tools we take for granted now. There were no computer-generated images, no digital compositing, no motion control cameras that could repeat the same movement with precision. Everything had to be built physically, lit practically, and captured in camera, which meant the crew was inventing solutions to problems that had never been solved before. The massive anatomical sets, the wire work that simulated underwater movement, the lighting techniques that made dry soundstages look like fluid environments, and the careful coordination of all these elements represented a level of practical filmmaking ingenuity that still impresses technical experts decades later. Number 13. The cartoon spin-off. ABC launched an animated adaptation just 2 years after the movie's release, also titled Fantastic Voyage, and the cartoon series ran from 1968 to 1969, expanding the film's universe for younger viewers. The movie hadn't even finished its initial revenue cycle when television was already creating new adventures with the same premise, introducing the idea of miniaturization and inner body exploration to Saturday morning audiences, which is a testament to how quickly the concept captured public imagination. The animated series took the basic concept of the film and turned it into an ongoing adventure show where a team could be shrunk down and sent into different bodies week after week. While the movie focused on a single desperate mission with life or death stakes and a strict time limit, the cartoon reimagined miniaturization as a regular tool that could be used repeatedly for various missions and adventures. This shift from a one-time desperate gamble to a routine operation changed the tone completely, making the concept more accessible to children while also demonstrating how flexible and appealing the core idea was for different types of storytelling. Number 14. The Future Star Cameo. Watch Fantastic Voyage carefully and you can spot a very young James Brolin in a tiny, nearly unrecognizable role as a CMDF technician. This was before Brolin became a leading man, before his television stardom, before anyone knew his name, and he's on screen for just moments, completely forgettable in the context of the film's main story. It's the kind of before-they-were-famous appearance that only becomes interesting decades later. Brolin's brief appearance represents something common in Hollywood productions from this era, where young contract players and aspiring actors would take any small role available just to get experience and screen time. Nobody on the Fantastic Voyage set in 1966 could have predicted that this unnamed technician would go on to become a household name through television series and major films, or that he'd become part of one of Hollywood's most famous families. These tiny roles in major productions were stepping stones, and for every James Brolin who made it to stardom, there were dozens of other actors in similar small parts who never broke through, making his eventual success all the more remarkable in retrospect. Number 15. The Reputation Reversal. The film that initially lost money and received mixed reviews is now considered a classic, and modern review aggregators rate it at 91% approval. Critics and audiences today call it one of the most imaginative science fiction films ever made, which is a complete reversal of fortune from financial disappointment to beloved genre touchstone. Sometimes the true measure of a film isn't its opening weekend or its contemporary reviews, but whether it continues to inspire and entertain audiences decades after release. This transformation in reputation happened gradually as new generations discovered the film through television broadcasts and home video, and as the limitations that some 1966 critics found laughable became charming examples of practical filmmaking ingenuity. What once seemed like clunky special effects now look like impressive achievements given the technology available at the time, and the earnest scientific approach that some dismissed as overly serious now feels refreshingly sincere compared to the ironic distance of many modern science fiction films. The movie's influence can be traced through countless films, television shows, and video games that have used similar concepts of exploring microscopic worlds, proving that even a financial disappointment can become culturally significant if the ideas at its core are strong enough to resonate across generations. Fantastic Voyage remains a fascinating case study in filmmaking ambition because behind those beautiful dreamlike images of miniaturized humans exploring inner space was a production marked by stolen props, uncomfortable filming conditions, wire rigs instead of water tanks, and the challenge of building massive sets to represent microscopic environments. The film confused audiences about its own origins, lost money despite winning Oscars, and took years to be recognized for the achievement it actually was. These 15 weird facts reveal that the real voyage happening behind the cameras was just as strange and remarkable as anything that appeared on screen, and sometimes the most fantastic voyages are the ones we take while making movies, not just while watching them. If you stuck around, here are 5 more bonus facts you might have missed about this classic. Number 16. Raquel Welch's problem costume. Raquel Welch's white diving suit created constant headaches on set because the material was made of unusual clingy fabric meant to simulate microscopic medical material. The costume repeatedly caught on wires, props, and even other actors, which slowed production significantly and forced crew members to keep stopping scenes to untangle her from whatever she'd accidentally grabbed onto. What looked sleek and futuristic on camera was actually a nightmare to work with in practice, and the same qualities that made the suit look convincingly like advanced technology also made it stick to everything it touched. The production team had chosen this specific material precisely because it photographed well and looked appropriately alien and medical under the special lighting they were using for the body interior scenes. But nobody anticipated how problematic it would become during actual filming. Every time Welch moved through the elaborate sets or interacted with the wire rigging that was simulating underwater movement, the fabric would snag on something new, and what should have been simple scenes requiring just a few takes turned into lengthy technical challenges. The delays added up quickly, costing Fox money and time while crew members tried various solutions to make the costume more manageable without changing how it looked on camera. Number 17. The real scientific debate. The film's concept nearly sparked a genuine scientific debate about miniaturization when several science magazines, including the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists, discussed whether miniaturization violated the laws of physics after the movie's release. Scientists publicly argued the film was fun but impossible, focusing specifically on mass energy conservation and questioning whether shrinking matter down while maintaining its properties made any sense according to known physics. The fact that serious scientific publications bothered to analyze a Hollywood movie shows how much the premise captured imaginations even among people who knew it couldn't work in reality. Number 18. The recycled headquarters. The CMDF headquarters set was reused from another Fox science fiction production, with parts of the underground base recycled from leftover sets built for Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, the 1961 film and television property. This recycling saved Fox significant construction costs at a time when the studio was already nervous about the budget for Fantastic Voyage's elaborate body interior sets. Studios in this era routinely repurposed sets from earlier productions when possible, but the fact that Fox grabbed pieces from another Voyage property creates an amusing coincidence that most viewers never noticed. The practice of recycling sets was standard economics in Hollywood, where elaborate constructions built for one production would sit in storage or on standing backlots until another film could use them. Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea had created convincing high-tech military and scientific facilities, and those same architectural elements worked perfectly for the CMDF command center that needed to look both authoritative and futuristic. Audiences watching Fantastic Voyage had no idea they were looking at redressed pieces from a completely different project, which proves how effective this cost-saving measure could be when done carefully. Number 19. The original death scene. Donald Pleasance's character was originally supposed to die in a far more grotesque way according to early drafts of the screenplay, which killed Dr. Michaels by having the white blood cells digest him slowly on screen. The studio felt the original version was too disturbing for audiences and would push the film into territory that was too dark for the adventure tone they wanted, so the final film shortens and softens the effect considerably. What viewers see in the finished movie is a sanitized version of what the writers originally envisioned, which would have been far more explicit about the horrific reality of being consumed by immune cells. Isaac Asimov corrected scientific errors from the movie in his own novelization, and although hired to adapt the screenplay, he disliked some of the story's scientific inaccuracies and took the opportunity to fix them in his version. Asimov was particularly bothered by the ending, where the Proteus crew escapes without being re-enlarged, which creates a problem because the crew would return to normal size inside the patient's body. He rewrote the ending in the book to make it scientifically consistent, but Fox then considered his version too realistic, and stuck with their original screenplay for the film. This conflict between Asimov's scientific rigor and Hollywood's storytelling priorities highlights why the novelist felt frustrated with the project despite being paid to adapt it. Asimov built his reputation on hard science fiction that respected real physics and biology, and being asked to novelize a screenplay that violated basic scientific principles must have felt like compromising his professional standards. The fact that he went ahead and corrected the errors anyway, even knowing the film wouldn't match his version, shows his commitment to getting the science right even when it meant his book and the movie would contradict each other at key moments.